What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel for another Steam Deck video. This time we're taking a look at Palworld. Definitely a game I've been looking forward to checking out. It doesn't necessarily fall into my typical genre, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later. I do want to focus more on the performance. I'm surprised the game fares as well as it does here on the Steam Deck. Some of these survival crafting games can be kind of rough. So let's take a look at it here. It's not necessarily a verified game, but I haven't had any problems launching into it, not having to force any compatibility or anything. We'll be at 800p full screen, VSync and motion blur are off with TSR and medium settings. Now we're going to go through and do some changing though, because there's definitely some tweaking you'll want to do if you want to be able to try to hold 30 FPS in this game. Now let's jump into it here. Medium 800p TSR, 4 gigs of VRAM set in BIOS, just like we were looking at in the settings there. And the beginning of the game does run a little bit better than it does as you get into it. You head down the mountain, you get a little bit more busy, you are going to lose performance. So what you're seeing here at above 30 with these settings isn't going to be the case all the time, and that's why we're going to have to be able to change things around a little bit. Right here, when we go over to this little campsite, you'll already see that we want to drop below 30 at 29 FPS with these settings, and that's before we've gotten anything going on in the game yet. But for the fun of it, let's sit here and switch. We'll do medium with low shadows and low view distance, and that's going to up us about 5 FPS right here, maybe a little more, and then we switch back over and drop back down. The game certainly looks a lot rougher with those shadows and view distance changed, but it is what you're going to have to do later on in the game if you want to maintain. As far as our anti-aliasing, besides TSR, we have TAA, which is going to lose you performance overall if you switch from the TSR, of course, here. Looks fine, but you do lose that performance, not really worth it there. FXAA, of course, is not going to do great with the shadows. We're going to get that typical flickering and less performance. And none is also going to be a bit of an issue for our performance and visual quality. So going to recommend just leaving TSR on, everything looking good there. We have shadows on right now and those medium settings, but again, that's going to dip later on into the game. So we know we're not going to get higher than 30. Let's go ahead and cap this game to 30 FPS and give our frame times at least a fighting chance when it comes to running around and playing here. Now, medium, low grass, low view distance. What I do want to show you here is low view distance is very, very low. You are going to see things popping in and out. It does make it a little harder when you're searching for materials to pick up off the ground and stuff like that. Even when you turn around and go back to where you just were, it's all going to be coming back again. Kind of reminds me of Pokemon when we tested that before. But medium view distance, which is what I definitely prefer, but can be an issue sometimes later on in the game, will definitely fare you much better when you're looking around for materials, when you're in one location, spinning around, and things aren't just having to pop in again. But with these settings, when you start getting later on into the game and there's a lot more happening, well, I say a lot more, we're not even into a multiplayer server or a lot more enemies on screen and effects, but even with a little bit more going on here, we're not able to hold 30 FPS with these settings that we were holding about an hour ago in the game, an hour earlier, more towards the beginning. So if you want to be able to hold 30, we are going to have to go ahead and sacrifice low view distance, low grass details, low shadow, and that's going to pretty much take this same area. It's certainly not going to look as nice. And we're going to have that low view distance where things are going to pop in more, but this is about the only way I'm able to really maintain 30 FPS as I get farther into the game. And since making this video, I've played about another hour or two in, and there are times I've had a few drops here and there when it's gotten busier. I jumped into a multiplayer server. I wasn't recording at the time, and performance was pretty good, but I definitely had some times where it wanted to still drop just a little bit here and there. So just be aware, it is a struggle, especially when you get later on into the game, to hold 30 FPS. It's not always going to be smooth, but ultimately the game does run pretty decent and you're able to run it here on the Steam Deck. This happens to be the Steam Deck OLED. The LCD's going to be very similar performance when it comes to Palworld here. But I will say, as far as survival crafting Pokemon style type gameplay here that we're getting into, this is definitely one of the more approachable survival crafting style games. So if you're someone like me who doesn't necessarily like to jump in and enjoy games like Valheim, Ark, and all that, because that's just not my speed, I've actually grown to really like this game in the 3 or 4 hours I've put into it so far. And if you're someone who would normally hold off, it might be worth jumping into and checking out Palworld here. It's a little bit more approachable than most of these genre games. But anyways, guys, thanks a lot for coming to check out the video. As always, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.